my name's Dylan Fries, and I'll be doing my poet's presentation on one of the poems that I wrote. So I'd like to start this presentation with two very distinct quotes. The first one is by Al Ginsberg from the poem entitled How that we read. This is the first line of the poem, and it goes, "I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked." The second line is from Erase a Pound, and it's from the poem entitled In Station and Metro that we read. It goes, "The apparition of the faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough." Now, I chose these two lines not because I was trying to, necessarily compare my poem, which you'll see in just a little bit, not to compare my poem in terms of the structure, the techniques, or anything used. What was interesting about these two lines was they were thought-provoking. They were powerful, they were effective. They made you stop, reread the lines, and really think about what you just read. It required some level of interpretation, and they're very thought-provoking. And that's what I try to incorporate in my own poem. So the title of my poem is called The Morning Cup of Joe. My inspiration for this poem is obviously I like coffee very much, the taste of it and the effect of it. Some of the within this poem I try to describe the smell, the taste, and the look of coffee in a very descriptive and thought-provoking manner in order to create a picture in your mind. Some of the goal accomplishments that I tried to accomplish in terms of writing this was I used the effects of multivalent, ambiguous, and to make you feel more deeply. So I included multiple meanings or messages in terms of multivalent in my story to make you interpret them, and also along that lines ambiguous because my poem requires a lot of levels of interpretation on what you think certain lines mean. And then ultimately I want to make you feel more deeply with this poem. So now looking at the poem, I handed out those sheets, but it starts, "Oh coffee, I fill you up each and every day, setting my heart on fire. First whiff of Morning Joe wraps me up in a cozy blanket, that delicate earthy aroma smell, like the grainy texture of dark African dirt. It hypnotizes me like a pocket watch going back and forth. It's a wrist with no creamer or milk, how oh so steamy you look. Will it burn my flesh? That's a gamble I must take to engulf this cup. I dive into that first sip of that sacred cup, that kick up, that push me up. A soft yet pungent taste hit me harder than the wheels of a train on a scorching old track. A bitter yet mellow taste that softens the throat with a dash of sweetness, drastically turning my brain on like the electrical circuits in a light bulb. The taste bringing me into an enchanted, wondrous, wistful world. Taste so powerful it brought life to a dead flower, warming my entire body to that of a campfire. Taste so soothing I gulp, 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 to the very last drop, 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 setting my heart on fire. Each and every day, I fill you up, oh coffee." So looking at some of the techniques and ideas I purposely incorporated in my poem, obviously the three most prevalent ones was repetition and refrain, simile and metaphor. I used repetition and refrain at the beginning and end in the forceful lines to create structure. When I said, "Oh coffee, I fill you up each and every day, setting my heart on fire," I just want to make you feel more and also to create structure in the poem. Probably the most prevalent ones I used was simile and metaphor. I wanted to paint a picture in your mind. I wanted to make the poem sound very appealing. And I just didn't think a singular or a very simple line or a single word would justify the taste and look of coffee and the smell of coffee. And then the next one, the other ones are internal rhyming, anaphor, alliteration, hyperbole. They weren't as prevalent, but I still use them in order to create the poem that I wanted to. So I used internal rhyming when I said, "Sacred cup, that kick up, that push me up." And then I used alliteration and anaphor with repeating either the first letter within the line or repeating the letter within different words within the line. So I used alliteration when I said wondrous, wistful world. And then for hyperbole, I used it when I said taste so powerful it brought life to a dead flower, and I was just trying to exaggerate that line in terms of describing the taste and how powerful it can be. I didn't use any rhyme or meter, rhyme scheme or meter. I did that on purpose, and I'll discuss that a little bit more in the next slide too. So what I did with this poem, I kind of broke it up. Here, I'll go back here to show you really quickly. I broke it up. It starts with a very short line, and then it starts to increase into the middle, and it starts to decrease. And the reason I did this was the first 11 line was to represent the smell and the look of coffee, and then that 12th line, he takes the first sip, and the final remaining lines he describes the actual taste of coffee. So the symbolic event of why he did this and why I set up like in that increase and decrease in effect. The first example was to show someone in a caffeinated state. So as you get closer to the middle of the poem, the words become choppier, and it's meant to be read faster. And then even as the lines start to decrease, the words are choppier again, and it's meant to read. You're meant to read the poem faster. And it just represents someone in a caffeinated state or someone that has drinking coffee, as in this poem. And it's just meant to represent someone that's jittery or excited or alert. The second meaning is to like envision someone actually filling up an actual physical cup of coffee. So at the beginning there's nothing in like a mug, and then as you fill it up, it starts to increase as in the poem does, and as you start to drink it, it starts to decrease, and that's what's meant to represent in this poem. So looking at some of the challenges, the biggest challenge was not necessarily the beginning or end of the poem, but it was, or the structure of the poem, or how I wanted to write this poem. The hardest part was obviously writing those similes or metaphors and those very complex lines, because I wanted to make it very thought-provoking. I wanted to paint a picture in your mind, and they weren't necessarily exactly easy. In terms of writing future poems, I believe in going back to the lines of rhyme scheme and meter. I didn't include internal rhyming, but I didn't want to necessarily make my whole poem about rhyme scheme and meter, because I wanted to make let the words flow out in a free verse technique, because I believe it's just more effective, and because it's very thought-provoking, it's powerful, it connects with the reader more, and it just makes you feel more. And then instead of finalizing my final points, I would like to leave with a quote that I found that describes poetry itself and how it connects to my poem, and why poetry is so important. It's written by Rita Dove, and it goes, "Poetry is language at its most distilled and most powerful." Thank you for listening.